What's going on, everybody? What's good? What's good? It's your boy Will. Got my man Brandon, Sarah. It's the How You Feel podcast. First and foremost, how we started off here. How's everybody doing today? Ladies first.
A little confused by the news, but nothing's new because everybody lies. How about you?
First of all, that rhymed. That
Bars.
was good.
Effortless.
Bars. I'm cool. I don't know. I'm like I'm good. I'm better than I was last week, but still, you know what I mean. Like there's still a lot that's going on. That we'll get into it though. We'll get into it. Brandon, how you feeling?
I don't know, man. I'm chilling, but I'm on guard. I feel like right now is a bad time to relax.
That's it right there. Chilling, but I'm on guard.
All
That's true. So another week, another day of bullshit. Another week of bullshit, basically. So I saw that one of the ex-officers is out on bail, and I don't know how he paid for it, but I'm assuming his bail was, what did we say earlier, Brandon?
750,000.
750,000, but you only have to pay 10% of that, which is about 75,000. And it wasn't the officer that put his knee on George Floyd's neck, but it was one of the officers who were there. How do y'all think he'd pay for that?
I'm gonna be real with you. I didn't want to be that guy, but I knew going in, one of these officers was gonna make bail. I thought it was gonna be old boy that has like the initial charge, but the only reason why I knew that at least one of the officers was gonna make bail is because in another police shooting or police incident, the officer, one, he didn't get, there was no charges. Two, he wasn't put, I think he was put on paid administrative leave.
Wait, which one are you talking about?
I don't know. I think it was either Eric Garner's killer or not Philando Castile. There was another dude that I don't know. I want to say Eric Garner's killer. They set up a GoFundMe for him.
For the officer.
Yeah. After everything that went down, and he got they raised like $400,000, something like that. Don't quote me on it, but
I'm a fact check you, bro.
All right. But so I already know that there's a culture of people who support cops who kill black people, specifically. And there's also departments that look like they reward their officers who have killed black individuals if they get off. I.e. paid administrative leave.
I was about to say paid leave. Some type of reward to me.
Exactly. Some type of vacation, some type of something where they're not penalized for their actions by the department.
Facts.
So yeah, I'm tight, but at the same time, I already know how it goes. They probably raised money for this man to get out, or he probably has somebody who could front him real quick. So
nah, he ain't.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
it is.
Ain't nobody just. Maybe I doubt it. I don't think anyone fronted that cash.
I thought about a GoFundMe, but then GoFundMe say who hosts or who starts the page, and I feel like why would you want that on your neck? People are gonna come for you if they see that, but at the same time, I guess you got supporters who believe in officers, so it could be possible. I just feel like we would have saw it already though if they posted one.
Yeah.
So what part about the bail are you mad about? Just the fact that he was even able to post for bail? Because technically, it's not like he's free of charges,
Yeah, I was gonna say that he still has a trial he got to go through and everything, and right now he's just at home, I guess. But I mean, his face is planted everywhere, so it's not like he's gonna be chilling comfortably. he's low-key on house arrest type shit because people know what he looks like. People are mad. I wouldn't be going outside all willy-nilly.
Well, yeah, like I feel like it's more of I feel like it what's more important is the fact that like this could potentially make or break the case.
Him being out on bail.
Yeah, because
Elaborate.
it's because all right, so initially like a case has a lot to do with public perception, especially when you're being judged by a jury of your peers, right? So I feel like there is a detriment to having time like compile up when you're trying to bring a case to trial, and in that gap, that window, like anything can happen, like i.e. this a defendant can post bail, or evidence can be misplaced, or new elements can be added into the public perception to sway the case or sway the jurors or sway the judge, whatever, or give the legal defense teams ammunition. You know what I mean? In presenting their case, like it's so many elements. So I like I'm not mad at the fact that he posted bail because again I knew somebody was gonna post bail. It's just the fact that like what does that mean? How does that affect the case? Because if he posts bail, does that mean we're gonna pop up and then news outlets are gonna be like, oh, another officer posted bail, like so it's a little fishy to me, man. I don't know.
I thought about it actually now that I'm like redacting what I just said because George Zimmerman's still out here walking willy-nilly and apparently he's fine. Plus this guy has like the support of the law.
Fire, so yeah.
They all
I
got
take it back.
fired, but they could all get a different job. It was like what you were saying earlier about like they don't really have punishments. It kind of seems like rewards because even with the protests, like when cops are seen doing something excessively aggressive to protesters, all they did was get transferred to a different unit. They didn't get fired. They didn't get not even 1 day of no pay or something like that. They just got moved, and that's not helping nothing. And that's definitely not holding them accountable. There's so many cops who've been filmed doing crazy stuff, like the NYPD officer who pushed that woman on the street to the ground, hit the back of her head. The dudes in Buffalo who pushed that 75-year-old man to the ground, saw him bleeding and kept him moving. And then the craziest part of that story to me is like that officer I think got fired, and then like I think they said 50 something of the other officers resigned, which just proves like y'all don't hold nobody accountable. And I don't want to hear nothing about no bad apple. If 57 people support what he did to that old man, there's obviously a bigger problem than just one bad apple. That was the craziest shit I
The
heard.
part that made me mad about that situation with I believe he was a veteran as well. The cop that pushed him. I'm not gonna say he didn't mean to push him. Obviously, he didn't mean for that to happen. Whether he meant for it or not, it was unnecessary. When the guy fell, the cop that pushed him, if you watch his reaction, he was shook. Like he was like, "Oh shit!" And he immediately went to go try to help him. And it was a different cop that came over and said, "Get up and move." And then he called in whatever happened. You saw how shook that cop was. Like he came back in the camera and he looked like, "Oh shit! Like what did I do?" But it's the police that forced him. It's like, why not let him immediately go up to him and help him? Why are you telling him to move? So it's like that can't be part of the procedure. What are you trying to cover up now? And then you see how they all covered from that camera. They all surrounded the guy from that angle, so you couldn't see anymore. But we already saw his head was leaking. So
we saw it. Trump tweeted something crazy about some stupid ass conspiracy theory about it. That was the wildest thing too, because like you said, he really his initial reaction was to help him. Like, it didn't seem like he wanted him to fall. And then his colleague or whatever, I don't know if it was his boss, I'm guessing it was, because he obviously listened to him, but was like, nah, don't help him. Like, pushed him and kept him moving. And literally watching all the officers step over him was the wildest thing to me. But that just goes to show you they don't care. That's why I hate, like, watching pictures of cops kneeling and stuff and marching and all that, like, peace shit. I mean, by all means, stay safe, but y'all are lying. Like, they're kneeling for a picture and then beating your ass an hour later. So what does that mean to me?
Look, I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm not surprised. I like anything that cops do. Like the only thing that kind of like moves me is the fact is when stuff like this is caught on camera and then people try to debate how the cop isn't wrong, or like in any situation. Like
it's on camera. It's literally on camera. Like, how are you gonna fight this? That's
because I know of people who really support like cops, like officers, the military, like they can't do no wrong, no harm to anybody. Like, so I understand the mindset, but for the rest of the world, because I'm gonna say it like this: that was a white man, right? And you would think that the rest of the world would, meaning, you know, the white people would be like, yo, y'all wilding, like, but of course they're silent. So silence is compliance. We know that.
I'm not gonna front. I thought that white man was like gonna be the last straw for people, but no one cared.
Yo, like
really, no one cared.
And it's crazy because it's not like, all right, so like as a black person, like, you know what I mean? I have other things that I could be worried about, but I just saw like one of my old heads out here being pushed. Like, I'm talking like one of the old men that like I say what's up to now and again. Like, I saw that in that man. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, like, I'm still a human. I can identify with other humans. And that was just grimy. And that shows the true colors. And I was like, when I first saw that video, I was like, you know what? Like, that's unfortunate. I feel for that man. I hope he's not dead. Is he dead? Is he alive?
No, he's good.
He was in the hospital. He's good.
Okay. Whew.
It looked like it though.
It did. Like, he wasn't moving. Like,
yeah, it was crazy.
The thing with that, as far as like, you know, good cop, bad cop, whether cops are good, whatever, the kneeling, it's tough, and it goes back to the last time we spoke, and me and Will went on a rant, on an argument, hour-long argument about businesses, and he brought up a point, whereas in businesses, if you interrupt the flow of that said business, then it's clipped, you're done. If you interrupt the flow or the procedures of said business, you're done. Whether Will wants to agree with me that a police force is a business or not, I will say this: that philosophy stands within their program as well. So for the ones that do try or want to, they know that. Reason why I can't go 100% hard on all police are bad or no police wants to make change is because I know a few. So, and that's close to home. I know a few within the police force, within the armed forces, that I know they ain't like that. At the same time, it's like, knowing what Will said last time, it really sat with me, and it was like, if you can think like that on that level, then maybe if you can put that and place it on some of the people who may be, like I said, the conflicted ones who are in that position, and a lot of times, like I know Sarah was like, you should have known before you won it, and you said that too, I believe, as far as research. But a lot of times people go in with like a strategy. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this, and I want to get here, and I'm going to leave, right? They do it in the armed force. I'm going to do this 6 years, 15 years, 20, whatever it is, and then I'm going to leave. But if you get caught up in those, and whatever time it is, you get stuck in the middle, then you got stuck. Maybe you did know, but maybe you took a gamble on yourself. Like, a lot of people use the government to better themselves. They don't care about the government, but no, the government is the easiest way to make money. So you work for the government, try to make a bag quick, and you know, get yourself stable before you can find something else to do. What do you say to those people that get stuck, and now they looked at it as like, oh, you should have known, but in their eyes it was like, I knew, but I didn't think this shit was gonna happen. you know, who knows? But it's tough. Like what you said last time really sat with me, and I was like, okay, I can kind of like use that, and kind of get into the minds of some officers who get caught in the middle, knowing that if they try to intervene with certain things, with the flow of certain things, that it ain't gonna be a good outcome for them. So.
Yeah, I get why that guy didn't help the old man after pushing him, because if he helped him, that basically is him proving that he did something wrong. Like, that would be him owning up to his mistakes. That would be accountability, which is why his boss or his colleague or whoever that was didn't let him help. But to what you were saying, are they, I'm trying to figure out how to say this in a way that makes sense. Are they good cops, or did they just not get the chance to be bad yet?
Cool.
If that makes sense. Like the good cops that you were arguing.
Well,
and I'm not saying the people personally that you know, but there's a lot of cops who didn't do, who, like, I live in a small neighborhood. Like, I'm not going to front, the cops here don't do nothing, because it's a quiet town. Like, nobody does nothing wrong or whatever. But it doesn't necessarily mean they're good. It just means that they're comfortable not doing anything. Like, they're not in the field like that.
There are a lot of cops that haven't got to show their true colors. There are a lot of cops that haven't really been in a situation where their morals were tested. There are other cops as well where, at the end of the day, being a cop is a job. Like we said, not every cop is out to do wrong, but if you're in a situation where you get pulled over or you're being questioned or whatever, at the end of the day, the cop is doing his job in that situation. So most of the time, if you're in interaction with a cop, it ain't gonna be a good one. You ain't gonna, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta look at it like this. When can you ever say, "Oh, that cop's a who"? If you emotional in a situation, right? Let's say you just got pulled over and you're getting a ticket. Are you, "Oh, that cop's a good cop. He pulled me over and gave," like, when cops are never going to be looked at as good, because usually their job is to correct or discipline when things are done wrong. Yes, they're called for help, but even then, you know, if it's not that situation, then you're not really going to have a good interaction unless that cop decides to do a community day and is purposely interacting with the community, and you get to know that cop. Other than that, how many good interactions do you actually have with a cop?
Like, a ticket is a ticket. Like, whether you know if you deserve a ticket. Like, I got a ticket and I was pissed, but I knew I deserved the ticket, high key. But I'm talking about, quote unquote, protecting and serving. Like, who are you protecting and who are you serving if we are all scared of you?
Yeah, well, like, some pick and choose. Some pick who they want to or who they're gonna go hard for. Or whatever the case may be. Like I said, I can't pinpoint them all, and that's a good question. How do I know, right? I can only speak for the people that I know. Some of them I actually grew up with. I have a few friends I grew up with that are actually officers, and I don't know what they did behind closed doors when I wasn't around. But I know growing up with them, I can't see them as the type of police that people would like to paint all cops to be. I know that if I was to get pulled over by one of them, or whatever the case may be, I wouldn't be thinking, "Oh, they did it because I'm black," because one is Hispanic, one is white. I believe the other one is also Hispanic as well. But I wouldn't think that it was a racial thing growing up with them. I would think that if they happen to pull me over or whatever the case may be, they're doing it because I did something wrong. And I believe that there are more cops like that have no choice but to choose. They can't choose between who they decide to oppose authority over. But like you said, it's hard to tell. How can you tell? And you can get in and be corrupted. So
would you be mad at other people for judging the police in that way? Like, "Oh, I see a cop, I'm wary about him," just because of obviously what we see on TV or personal experiences?
I'm more so, yeah. I'm not mad at people having a fear of cops. I'm mad at people who decide, like, you know, let's say you've never really had one, or you do, or you hear what's going on in the news, and let's say you just have an interaction with the officer, right? Before we really even know, because a lot of the videos we get that they show us, we don't ever get to really see how it starts. But we do get to see a lot of times, and a lot of times it's us mouthing off or just yelling. And sometimes the cop is just kind of just standing there, like and talking. I've seen a lot of videos where we're mouthing off, cursing and cussing, and the cop is just standing there, and nothing happened. I've seen a lot of those videos. If you were to use those videos, if they were to pull up all those videos, right? Of course they would use that against us. Like, that cop could be someone who wants to break the law and do something illegal, but maybe that cop knows it doesn't make him a good cop because he didn't act on his thoughts. No, that just makes him smart. But I don't know what the answer to that is. I just do know that people, a lot of times, because of what they see, react and handle situations with the wrong mindset. We shouldn't be scared of police, and that's partially their fault. That is actually their fault. We're scared of police, and therefore we react and interact with them that way. We're so defensive before anything really goes down that the tension is already high, and that's not really our fault. But yes, I really do feel like we should try to work on it. If we're not being antagonized, if we're being pulled over, or if a cop, questions you, obviously they're trying to, a lot of times it's because you're Black. If they ask you for your ID, a lot of times it's because you're Black, and they want to use you as a reason. Oh, suspect look like you. At the end of the day, we got to do our best to keep our composure, unless we are being threatened, right? There's a bunch of videos where you can't stop it. You can't stop it. Like, even if you keep your composure, or if you're going crazy, like, the end result is usually still the same. But we have to, once again, just try to be smarter as a whole. I don't get mad. I don't get on anybody for being fearful of the cops, though, or having a premeditated thoughts about all police. That's not something I should be upset about. Just trying to make sure that we're smart about how we go about expressing those thoughts, because not all cops are going to be able to restrain themselves.
I feel you, but I also don't feel like, and I'm not saying that I'm not even sure if this is what you're saying, but if people interpret it this way, I also don't feel like we should carry that burden as people, because some people don't do anything, like Breonna Taylor, like Philando Castile.
Yeah.
Like, they did technically what people tell them to do. Breonna Taylor didn't even get a chance to do anything.
Yeah.
And look at where she at right now. But a lot of times people, it's the craziest thing to me, because specifically white people are like, well, you should be respectful, and I understand the third. And these people they crossed their T's and dotted their I's. They did what you said they should do, and they still
once again
in the same situation.
Remember what they're showing you, and then remember the rest of the people in the world, right? I believe there are more people that have interactions like I have with police officers than there are that die. You know what I mean? That get killed like that. I believe there are more people that have interaction with police officers where it was going a certain way and defensiveness is what turned it another way. I believe that, yes, police are, for the most part, very corrupt, but just based off of the experiences I had with police officers, a lot of times what they do is they literally try to, if it's two cops, one cop is usually the one that tries to say something or do something to antagonize you, like to make you, they want you riled up. I've never had, if it was one officer and he came with attitude, I've had, no offense, the two officers that I've had the most trouble with were both female, and I don't know what that was about. They were both state troopers, and her attitude was crazy, and it was like, yo, like, is she gonna pull me out the car? And like, I thought like that one of those interactions was going to be like a one of those things you see on the news, right? But
where was that at, if you don't mind me asking?
It was going towards upstate, going towards Buffalo. Yes,
I got a ticket up there too, and woof, that attitude on that cop, bro.
It's crazy.
Which is why I didn't give him that energy back.
It is what it is, but a lot of times they act a certain way. They're abusing their power and their authority, and they're trying to get you to act out. That's been, and unfortunately, I've had a lot of interactions with police officers, and I don't feel like most of them I've done something to warrant the interaction. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
And yes, like I don't mind bringing up me being arrested for the suspended license that I had no idea about, or why it was suspended. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew why it was suspended, but when I was arrested, you had one cop that was nice cop. You had the other cop that was being very sarcastic while I was in the cuffs and very, it just seemed while he was trying to, get me out of my character. But my mind says I have no idea where I'm at. I have no idea what y'all could do. I'm not going to say nothing, right? Like I'm just quiet. And then that played out how it played out, and I got out that same day. I feel like that happens to a lot of people, and I feel like what a lot of people do is lose their composure and start going back because they're so pent up, they're so angry. They've seen it on TV, they're scared. Like, but this is how. And not for nothing, I will say this: a lot of the videos I've seen of people who do that are also aware of the cameras. So you're aware of people around you, and that also feeds their initiative to want to go ahead and be that way. I've seen it. I've seen them looking into the camera, looking around for the cameras, looking at the people, and you feel more comfortable. You feel stronger. Like, oh, I'm safer now because there's cameras on me than you would if you was by yourself. Would you act that same way if it was just you? So you've got to understand situations. And yes, we're being showed all this stuff: the Breonna Taylors, the George Floyds, the Ahmaud Arbery's, the Eric Garner's. Why am I forgetting the kid's name? It's like one of
Tamir Rice.
No, it's a long time ago. You brought up George Zimmerman.
Sean Bell.
Trayvon Martin.
Trayvon, like these are all pictures that they're going to show us to instill fear in our hearts. Like they want us to be scared of this, and it's working. So like I said, this is an agenda, right? This is not them showing us because they care that we're being killed. There's an agenda that they're reason why they're picking and choosing the worst altercations always, right? They pick and choose ones to show you. Once again, Breonna Taylor, we didn't know about her. They didn't care. So they said, fuck it, we're not going to show them that. It came out because once we got riled up, we dug up all this shit. And of course, we came across it, right?
But how did they choose what they show us I know a 17-year-old girl filmed the George Floyd death. I don't know if she's the one who posted, but I'm assuming she posted it. So how do they control what happens to it after it's posted?
Cool.
I don't know. You said they pick and choose what they show us.
You know they go ahead, Will, because I know you.
Nah, go ahead.
No, that's fine if you want to speak. I'm just saying. Go ahead. It's easy kind of to control or block or shadow. What's the new phrase? Shadow ban on some of these apps. Like they can control to a point of what gets set amount of exposure. So with the George Floyd thing, that was on news like literally like all day for weeks. Since it's been 2 weeks, yes.
2 weeks.
That there have been, I promise you, since then, other murders, and you know them since his death, and they've actually reported on some, but they're not
I've seen some.
They're not, but of course, still in the news to this day, it's still George Floyd. The media plays a part in that, and it's also a brainwash, right? So they while giving you exposure to police brutality, they're also distracting you from other shit that's going on within your community by only telling you about George Floyd. Every now and then Breonna Taylor, every now and then Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. You see what I'm saying? They get to control that, and this is what they'll show us. And then we'll be like, oh, I don't want to go out because, or I don't want to do this because of the cops. And you got parents that won't let their kids to go outside because not even with coronavirus. Now is you can't go outside because the cops is wilding. And maybe they are, but it's the fear that they definitely are. But I'm saying maybe that is the case, right? Maybe in your neighborhood that is the case, and some other neighborhoods it might not be. But the neighborhoods where you don't really see that a lot, I'm sure they are acting the same way as if it will happen to them because they're scared now. And that also is part of some type of, I don't know what that is, but yes, media has the ability to control, even if they weren't the ones that filmed it, they have the ability, whoever runs the internet has the ability to do that. How does it get on the internet? How does all this stuff surface and filter itself? So it's not a coincidence. It always happens. So
Do you think that the fact that his death was actually filmed has a big reason for the exposure? Because
possibly,
a visual hits you
Yes.
harder.
possibly, but this
Yes.
one also had. It wasn't even that it was just filmed. There was so many angles of it as well, and the body cams were also altered and shit was cut out. No, I don't. The police body cams. So you had that going on. You had different angles that were filmed. There was so many angles. Maybe that's the case. I'm sure you guys have said on previous episodes that you've seen videos of some women that have been killed on camera or other men that have been killed on camera that didn't get the exposure that and it's really about for them what's the story what's gonna sell
Narrative.
yeah like what's the
It's
narrative
how
being pushed so the Breonna
it's,
Taylor thing I feel like had there I don't want to cut you off Will but this is my last point I feel like had there been it sucks to say it right because once again for them it probably seems there's nothing that they can't push nothing with that there's no video really it's kind of a boring case for them whatever we'll put it out there but we're not going to push that because it's not exciting had there been cameras that she had cameras in her house and you saw it all over like they were not going to stop they're going to put that out there they're going to show you they're going to want to show you that shit they're going to want to push that because it's exciting you watch this black girl get murdered by 6 cops or however many cops there was 4 cops watch her get shot 21 times like they love showing you someone suffocating for 10 minutes they love showing you kids on the ground dead with their eyes wide the fuck open but they're not going to show you nothing they're not going to tell you about nothing they can't show you so yeah I don't know that's just my viewpoint on it.
How you feel, Will?
I actually wanted to comment on the good cop bad cop thing too, but I'm gonna answer this part first. Okay, so when it comes to why they keep showing it and like what gets coverage, it's a all right. So news, there's something about media. News and media is not like it doesn't hold the same integrity or the same weight as the news of old. Like before you had real journalists who went to school for journalism, who studied like the fundamentals of journalism, and not only was it about getting a story, it was about telling the right story, right? Nowadays, news outlets and news media, because that's what it essentially is, they run like tabloids. They run like this. They run on the sensationalism of a certain topic, and the like Brandon said, the reason why the George Floyd case was able to sustain as much as it did, as much as it has, is because of the fact that they were able to like milk it for its worth, and then have so much let's just say inventory of the situation that way they could just feed it out in a certain time frame, like the multiple angles and the side stories about his autopsy. Like there's just certain things that um created a timeline of how they could push a narrative and push this narrative of either in the right way or the wrong way. And um unfortunately, when you have a case or you have a situation, that always comes to someone in the newsroom. Like, let's be clear, when it comes to news, it doesn't matter how big or small, it still makes its way to a newsroom. Because people have like people have people within the newsrooms, they have people that they pay to literally bring them news. So it could be small town, it could be large city, it could be anything. And there's always news. The news that we hear or the news that we quote unquote dig up, it's already been dug up by, it's already been discovered, sorry, by news outlets. It's just Is it going to sell? Is it going to bring in clicks? Is it going to bring in advertising dollars? Or can we run this? Can we run this story and then like go to commercial right afterwards so we can uh, pay our bills without advertisers? Like it's just like these are the things that are more present and forefront in today's media than of a media before. And that's my opinion on it. And that's the reason why it'll keep happening. That's why I would tell people in a heartbeat, don't watch the news. I understand you got to get your news from somewhere, but don't watch the news. Like, don't sit there and watch the news minute after minute, hour after hour, because what they're gonna do is they're gonna play the same thing on a wheel, and it's conditioning, is brainwashing. It's like, oh, news said it, news said it. I didn't do my research. News said it, news said it, news said it.
So what's the best way to get news if not the news?
I would say because I would be a hypocrite if I say I didn't watch the news. I watch the news, but I don't watch the news, and that's my only source. I watch the news. Yeah, I watch the news. I usually just listen to a headline and I walk away because anything else they about to say is about to piss me off. So I just walk away. Eventually, when I go on my phone, it's on social media. If something like sounds off to me personally, I'll Google it. I have no problem Googling it. But
whatever you Google could be wrong too.
True.
Yeah, but that's why there's multiple results on the Google search. So if they all adding up, or most of them are adding up, then something got to be true in that article. So.
Or they got it locked. They got the narrative locked to a point where the truth can't get out. But ultimately, like, I do all these things, like I go to all these different sources, but I also use my common sense. And that's like one of the biggest factors that are left out of how people perceive media, how people portray the narratives that are pushed by media. Like, sometimes if you just sit and listen, do not try to think about what they're saying, but you just sit and listen. I'm telling you, sometimes I'll be listening to shit like, that shit makes no sense. Why would they even say that? But it's only because I'm paying attention. Like, I'm not like just going through the motions of watching a news story. I'm really like listening to what they are saying. And sometimes when it comes to like important cases like a George Floyd situation, like you can catch a news reporter saying some stupid shit and be like, oh, that was stupid. Like that didn't even make sense. That, like, who wrote that? Who wrote that on a teleprompter for you to say, like, because that was bad. So it unfortunately we in a day and time where you can get your news from anywhere, and you don't know who the source is. You don't know where particularly it's coming from. But this is I would say the most important time in news and media history, where you have to really use your own common sense and logic when you are presented with quote unquote news. So.
Yeah, you raised your hand earlier, Brandon. You remember what you was gonna say?
It was something along. I believe you said news used to be. What would you say about?
Like tabloids, he said. That's what you.
Right. It was more. It had more integrity in it. Yeah, like, you had people who went to school for journalism, who studied the pioneers and
but let's not forget, once again, news has tried to be genuine to one group and one group only. If it wasn't that group, it was never, and nothing integrity and nothing. It wasn't something that you can look at and go, oh yeah, they got integrity, ever, especially in our communities. So once again, we have to remember to separate these things, because there's always been an agenda, and it's the same thing for us. What's happening to other people, what other people are starting to get upset about, the same thing is going on. There's a NASCAR driver that decided to retire because they banned the Confederate flag, right? And his thing was, because they're conforming to make other people feel comfortable, he doesn't want to be a part of it. And it's just like, that's another example of shit when shit don't cater to you, all of a sudden you don't like it, and that's what's going on with the news, where it's really affects almost everyone now because everything's about clicks. So it offends
Yeah.
everyone, and you always find a news outlet that offends someone. That's why people don't watch the news no more because it offends them, and they just catching up to shit that we've been doing for half a century. Actually, yeah, half a century. So I'm sorry, half a what you call it, half a decade. No, forget it. I'm fucking up.
Centuries is 100.
Yeah, 100, half of whatever.
Half a century.
Half a thousand years.
Half a millennium.
Half a millennium. I'm like, yo, what is the word, bro? But half a millennium.
Like to that point though, like you're right. Like I'm not saying that news was once upon a time so perfect, but compared to now, there was more so the pendulum of news then versus now was like you had actual real reporters who cared about the story more so than what the story could.
It's a difference between being thorough and being quick. That's the difference. So before there wasn't much quickness. Now everyone has it at their fingertips. So now it's like we got to get it out quick. So you might change up a couple words here and there. And that's the thing about media. They have their quotes, and they might never ever make up words. But any words that you say, they will literally
rearrange.
And technically, all those words that came out your mouth, just not in that order. So
that's how clickbait came about. There was no clickbait back then, and it's like it's way too accessible to us. And I like what you were saying earlier about like you should watch something or any piece of information, read it, watch it, whatever, and then like turn it off and think about it, because the information is so easy and at our hands that like we just watch the news, go on Twitter, and we don't have time to literally think how we feel about it for ourselves because we're so focused on what's happening now, like what's the newest, what's the latest on this. And I mean, that definitely has something to do with capitalism too, because people just want to sell their papers and get their views on their sites, and that probably wasn't such the case back then.
Yo,
but
on them
I also agree with
Listen.
Brandon, with everyone always having a what did you say? Like what is the word? You just said it. Agenda. There we go.
And also, yeah, the thoroughness. There's no more thoroughness because of how quick everything moves. All right. So when it comes to the good cop, bad cop thing, right? I really hate this. I really hate this conversation now because before I was like, yo, like ain't no good cops, ain't no good cops, ain't no like you can't say that you're a good cop if you know who the bad cops are.
Exactly.
Right? I used to think that a lot. But then I had to take a step back and I had to really like evaluate why I thought like that. So it's like this, right? And I'm gonna give the example with this quote. I mean, with this example, there was a post I saw, right, of how many police shootings there were in like different regions of the world, and of course, America is the highest on the list. Like it was for 2019. For 2019, it was like 1,000 something cop killings. But compared to every other country that was on that list, like it was like 30, 25, 8, 0, 2, like, and that's for the whole annually. And I don't know how accurate the information is, but I take that. What I did is I took that information. I was like, okay, look. So essentially, and this is to your point, Brandon. You said this earlier. Like, it's not. Of course, you have bad people who enter the force with ill intentions, but it's also the culture. Like policing culture in America is not is. I would say there's a large percentage of policing that has created the culture of like a gang, almost like we come in, we do what we want, we take what we want, we get, you know what I mean? We could do anything we want, and we're above reproach some of the times. But you also have people who, damn, you said this too, Brandon. People in like you have people in that culture who um either are doing it a certain way, going about it a certain way, and people who understand that their position in that environment, in that culture, like there's already been a precedent set for certain types of offices, like in certain positions, or how you go up. Like if you've been like tossed around like different departments, like your name has a rep now. Like so I would say it speaks more to the culture and what the culture has allowed to proceed and what the culture has been allowed to get away with. Because when it comes to good cop, bad cop, like everybody has the potential. Every cop has the potential to be a good cop or a bad cop. Like, and then you have evidence to support whether that person is a good cop or bad cop, especially if they leave a paper trail, like George Floyd's killer. George Floyd's killer, like he left a paper trail of the things that he's done in his tenure as a police officer. But you also have people who like might have just had a bad day, like, and it turned into something more because that person even under the oath, even under like having all the training and understanding all the rules, like had a bad day, slipped and became human for 2.5 seconds and was like, oh shit, I messed up.
What?
No, like what I mean by that is
My next point was going to. I love that you said that because that was my whole next point. So go ahead.
But what I mean by that is the fact that it's like as the officer, right? Like they could have been, you know, doing their thing, not really like like those officers that don't really like do the most or do the least. They like right here in the middle, and like they understand that they follow their rules, their training in any situation, but a situation can occur, and then they step out of that for like 2.5, and then they understand that they've made a mistake. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like that was the human in them. Essentially, that was the human in them that
But
just
I think that's the
got out of
problem.
pocket.
Are you gonna hold yourself accountable to the mistake, or are you just gonna
But
act
here's
like
the so all right, so boom. So now here's the second part of that. So then you have the humanistic aspect of it, but then you also have the culture, and the culture has allowed like specifically white officers, white cops to get away with um certain actions that even if they know they've done wrong, it's like, oh no, you don't have to worry about that because it's in this culture that this is something that's happened and we've been able to essentially get away with it. It's like, so even though you know you made a mistake, even though you feel bad, no, just relax. It's okay. Like, and I'm speaking as the culture to the police officer at in an example. And this is how it's presented to these police. I'm pretty sure this is how it's presented to these police officers, especially ones who have a conscience. Like, i.e., that officer that pushed that man to the ground, and then he like naturally wanted to go help him, and then the other cop was like, nah. You know what I mean? Like, it's certain things in the culture that allow certain behaviors to persist. And when it comes to the good cop bad cop argument, it's like, yo, we can sit here and argue for days. We can sit here and argue in circles about who's a good cop, bad cop. But ultimately, it's the system and what the system allows police officers to get away with, to operate how, yeah, essentially.
Sarah, you want to go before I go? Because you
Now
were
I
saying
wanted to
something.
hear your point.
So there's a multiple things you said within your whole um uh take just now that we can address as well. First thing being, you can't be a good cop if you know what the bad cops are. And then you a few times separated a cop from a human, and that is the biggest mistake that we as people make, because well, cops are just people in uniforms. Like imagine you losing your daughter, you don't know where she's at, and you call the police and you tell them, "Oh, I need you to find my daughter," and they go, "Okay, man, we'll look for your daughter," and you just sent a pedophile to go look for your daughter in a uniform. Did you know that they were no? But they're in you don't know. This person takes off his uniform every night. You don't know what this person does, right? They're just regular ass people in uniforms. So there is no separating human from anything. That's why I don't really, when it comes to police officers and firefighters and whatever case may be, doctors, like cool. I respect that you are a public service enforcer, or you serve the public, whatever. But you're a normal ass person, just like me, right? So you have problems just like other people. You could be fucked up in the head just like other people. Second, we also have to stop trying to act like police. When I say police aren't people, because we are all people. You've ever been in school, you've ever been at work, you've ever been on the street, you've ever seen somebody being bullied or fucked up or whatever the case may be. You've ever seen anything and just been a bystander. You ever seen people you know that they fucked up shit and just been a bystander, right? We all know bad people. Does that make us bad people just because we know them? We all know
Yeah.
that we can't change the world. That makes you a bad
It
person?
doesn't make us bad people, but you're comparing. But I guess this goes to your point of you have to remember these cops are humans or whatever. But you took an oath. You're supposed to protect and serve. I'm not comparing you to the regular civilian.
No, but that's
Whatever you say.
No. I just want her to go real quick because I'm sorry.
Whatever you say, like in terms of like if you snitched on the bad person, has a lot to do with that person's track record. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that person is a big piece in your department, I'm assuming, just because he's an officer who is your colleague or whatever, and you have power. Us as civilians, we don't have power.
You don't have power as a cop just because you're a cop. Well, other people, other cops.
Power if you're a cop.
Unless you are a superior, right?
I'm saying you could report it to your superior.
You can't really do that.
Why can't you? You can't open your mouth.
So, do you understand what goes? You've been in the free things, and you understand. I'm just telling you, no. I'm just letting you. A lot of times when people do speak up, right? Snitching on your officers, whatever case may be, that can get you in trouble and not necessarily fired. That could get you put in situations and positions that are not beneficial to you or your safety. That could put you, if you come, a lot of people go on with good intentions and end up being banned or banished to like all these. There's so many things that goes on, and like it's like Will was saying, in the system. Like, there's a system, like I was saying earlier, where you can't really. It's like a business, and if you were to try to disrupt that flow, then that's pretty much it's clipped for you. You might not get fired per se, but there are a whole bunch of things that they can do to deter you from speaking again. So a lot of people do try to speak out. A lot of cops do try to speak out. But when I say is, yeah, you took an oath, right? And if you are a good cop or a cop, let's say you're a regular cop who hasn't done anything wrong yet per se, like he hasn't done anything wrong to me or any community member, but you know of cops that are have been, and you try to say something and nothing happens. And matter of fact, they use you as an example when they let's say they put you in like one of the most dangerous posts in your area, right? And now your life is in danger, and they're doing that to punish you because you tried to cinch out your officers. And now I come in and I see that might deter me from wanting to speak because I don't want that to happen to me. That don't make me a bad person. That just makes me human.
Tactics.
Huh?
But I'm sure they do have those tactics, and at that point, that's when, do you want to be a cop or do you want to quit? And I know that's a hard question, but it's your choice at the end of the day.
I get it. I'm just saying, cops are people. They have the same issues that we have. They just get away with a lot more than we do. They have more power. When I said they don't have power, I didn't mean they don't have power over us. You don't really have power over other cops unless you're their superior.
Yeah, that's your cop.
Exactly. So, and if you have more pull than me, and I'm a cop that's trying to do right, I can't win. If I'm in a corrupt, unit, I can't win
The whole
because
system is corrupt, though.
the
That's
whole
why I
the
don't
whole
think
system
there's
is
such thing as good
corrupt.
cops.
The whole
There could
system
be.
is.
I'm sorry.
I'm interrupting you,
Go ahead.
and
Oh, thank you.
my screen is kind of freezing a little bit. So
Yeah. I was gonna say there could be people who probably go in with the best intentions. I'm not saying they're bad people, but I'm saying if you enter a system that is corrupt in itself, you and that what you represent, you in that uniform, you in that badge, to everybody, well, in a lot of people's eyes, there is no such thing as a good cop because the whole system, everything you enforce, everything that you represent is bad. Everything, which is why I don't argue with people when they say there's no good cops, because I don't think there's good cops either. I think there's probably good people in those uniforms who probably shouldn't be in those uniforms because they don't represent what a lot of those other cops do. I don't think that all those people specifically are bad, but you as a cop, once you're in uniform, to me, I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking at you different.
but then that means then you got to look at people the same way. There are no good people in this world at all.
How?
Because a lot of us feel powerless to make any type of change. So we see things that go on every day that ain't right. If you live in New York City, then you know how we handle strangers and how we see shit. We keep it moving, keep it pushing. We could have changed that. We could have called the cops. We ain't want to get in trouble. We ain't want to get in.
All
It
of the
happens
cops
all
would
the
probably
time.
end up dead. Have either of you called the cops before, personally?
Ever in life? Yes.
Yeah, ever.
In life, yeah.
Oh, I
Does it
never.
happen
When I was
often?
young.
Not really. But that my point is we are all kind of the same way. We all see things and know people that do things. You said, I remember we had this argument years ago. Maybe it wasn't you. I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but I've had this debate with a couple of people. If you knew somebody, if you knew that somebody, and yes, this is 100% gonna be a fucked up conversation, and I'm not arguing for either situation, right? I'm not arguing for either way, but it's my disclaimer before I say it. If you knew somebody that was a really good kid, really, really good kid, this kid, like, cool with everybody, ain't hear nothing wrong about him at all, but you find out that he also talks to or, has interaction with a kid that raped somebody. Does that make that kid now a bad person because he's not ignoring that kid?
Yes.
It makes him a bad person.
I'm not supposed to be friends with a rapist?
No, I get it. No. I didn't say friends. See? I didn't say friends. I just said he interacts with him because he's cool. He don't have issues with anybody. Yeah, like, all I'm saying is people, that's an extreme, right? I use an extreme analogy to kind of get your ideas or your feelings on it, because on lesser levels we all do it. We all know somebody that does fucked up shit. We know scammers. We know people who scam people, do drugs, who sell people drugs that they should never have because maybe they need money or it's fun. Like, we all know people that do this. We all know somebody that does something that's not right. We all know people, and we all know people that fight other people for no reason, that bully people, that steal from people. Like, we know somebody that has done that or would do it. We know somebody that goes to the corner store and steals. Everyone has been friends with or cool with somebody that has done something illegal or wrong, bad spirited, and we did nothing about it. We've all seen someone get beat up. Exactly my point.
Call the cops?
No. What are you supposed to do? And that's a question that every human across the board, whether you are me, a cop, either you're the president of the United States, or when he feels like, what everyone has faced that question. And I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm just talking about just the position of power, right?
Yeah.
No matter where you are in that position or that tree, you're always faced with the question at some point in time, what am I supposed to do? Right? What can I do? Sometimes you just can't do anything, but that means if that makes me a bad person, then I guess everybody on this planet is a bad person. Because it's not that much different in my eyes. It's just they got a badge on. And yes, they did the oath, but lawyers are bad too, right? That means that the whole system is bad. Like, obviously, but like everything about it, you got to throw out.
But again, you are comparing civilians to cops, and I get that cops are
The
human.
mindset, comparing the mindset to cops because they're human.
Yes, but they have guns and
Okay.
handcuffs and tasers and power over the majority of the community.
You're talking, be it, but I'm comparing the ones that you're saying because they don't speak up. Those are the ones, or maybe they have tried and
Because
know
they're
it doesn't work
already placed in a system that's corrupt. Like, we're just living life. Yes, life is fucked
in a
up.
corrupt system.
Yeah, but that's not the same as being a cop in a corrupt system because you chose to be in this corrupt system. We didn't choose to be born.
It's the feeling of powerlessness is what I'm getting at. That
I get it. I understand what you're saying, but again, at the end of the day, they could still choose to be a cop or find a different job.
I want to say one.
Go ahead.
In the words of the mortal Ice Cube, everything is corrupt. Two,
obviously,
when it comes, we can't, even in that corruptness, we can't negate the fact that there are some people, especially some people who are in the force, who see where they can get away with things, and then they choose to act in those ways, act upon that, use it to their advantage,
abusing your power,
right? Abusing powers, yes.
But before I don't want to go back to there because that wasn't my argument. I'm not negating that. I wasn't forgetting that. I was just talking about something completely different. But I don't want, if you start talking about this, we're gonna find ourselves back again. Because then I'm not gonna comment on something.
I'm not saying that you were wrong. Like, I wasn't saying it to negate your point. I was just saying
that. But it sounds like you're about to start talking about something that is gonna bring us in circle again.
Oh nah, I was.
All right, go ahead.
I was gonna speak to and then all right. So thirdly, so when it comes to Sarah and your position, like, yeah, they have a gun, they have a badge, you know what I mean? They're different than a civilian. I hear you, but then now I am gonna refer to why I feel like it's the system at hand. And it was another I saw. I don't know how credible it is, but it said that it basically said how what type of training cops get in different parts of the world. Like, so it was similar to the other book. Yeah. And basically, to summarize it, cops here in the U.S., they don't get the proper amounts of training. And I will go a step further and say vetting. And this is all depend on the certain, your skin color, because I've heard personal accounts where people who try to become police officers or enter in some type of public servant position like that they were vetted to the T, like asking questions that were asked that were like about their childhood that they couldn't even remember or answer. So I would say that for a certain type of person, you say white, you can say whatever, like anybody who's who fits the the criteria, basically, they don't get the proper training, nor the proper vetting process to qualify them as a public servant.
You really think that matters?
Do I think it matters?
You really think that training and psych evals and all that stuff matter when you give somebody ample, like literally unlimited power and a gun? It don't matter.
Personally, I don't think it matters, but because of the fact that I feel like there have been certain instances. There are certain cops that are allowed into the force that shouldn't be in the force, and it goes to show how the system is operating, so to speak. Like, if you are a certain color, skin tone, for the persuasion, you'll probably be passed over. You probably will be afforded certain privileges that somebody who looks different than you wouldn't. So, and therein lies the corruption of it all. So, yeah, even with the corruption aside, like I feel like there should be at least certain like job requirements, because like let's say you're filling out for a regular job and they have job requirements. I feel like there should be job requirements for becoming a police officer, i.e. a 4-year degree in criminal
You
justice,
should know some
like
kind of
something.
You should, but
How you enforcing the law you don't know? That makes no sense.
it really don't matter. Honestly, I really don't think it matters. Once again, we are drawing heat off of every other form of public service because the cops are the most blatant. Let's not act like people who go to school for years, become doctors and lawyers, aren't corrupt. This is all over the place. It's just cops are the ones with the guns in their hand. But when the doctors put you under, you don't know what the fuck they're doing to you.
That's true.
The medical industry is racist as hell, but that's a whole
racist as shit and corrupt as shit. But we're not talking about them. We're talking about the cops. What I'm saying is, it don't matter how. I'm happy you said that, because it don't matter how long they go to school for. It don't matter how much you make them do, how much training you make them do. The problem that they have, if a doctor is found out to be corrupt or doing something illegal, he's going to fucking jail. And he's going to jail for a long ass time. If a cop gets found out he's doing something, can y'all hear me?
Depending on how much pull you got.
If a cop gets found out that he's doing something corrupt or whatever, or he kills someone, you'd be lucky as a civilian that's affected by it if he even goes to jail, right? So the fact that you give a single person so much power, right? So much power and no accountability, no type of discipline, that is where the corruption lies. But for them, it don't matter how much training you give them unless you take back some of their power and also make them everything's got to be under the spotlight. They have to be monitored, and it has to be some type of disciplinary action when they do fuck up, and it has to be severe, just like it would be for anybody else. If a doctor loses his license, he can't be a doctor no more. If anything, make sure the cop, after they go to school for X amount of years, they got to get a license. They got to renew every 3 or 4 years, right? But if they lose that license, they can't be a doctor. They can't be a cop no more. Shit like that, where they're scared to lose their shit, make them fear it. That's the only way you change it. You don't change it by making them go to school for 4 years, who the fuck cares? Make them scared to lose their job. Make them scared, and that'll be the only way to change. Because then they lose that license. That's it, and they're going to jail.
That's a good point, because I've heard so many lawyers say it's hard to convict a cop. No matter how much evidence you have, it's hard to send a cop to jail.
But guess how easy it is to send a black innocent innocent man to jail by lying to them about some plea deal.
Yeah,
Very easy.
It's wild.
Corruption at its finest.
Do you guys remember the first case that had you really aware of how fucked up the system is? For me personally, I know it was Trayvon Martin, because we were literally the same age, and I was 17, so I think he was 17 or 16, but it was pretty much close enough to the point where it could have been me, it could have been any one of my classmates, because I remember we were talking about it in class, and I was just looking around the room at all the black boys, and I'm like, yo, it could have been one of y'all. It was the wildest thing ever, because they had the phone call and everything, and it just seemed like all the evidence was against the person who killed him, and then he walked off scot-free. So that was the first case that had me really aware of how much the system really does not care about black people specifically. Sandra Bland's case was also fucked up, but
yeah, that was wild, and that was around the Eric Gardner joint. That was a wild summer. I think that was the
Trayvon Martin, Eric Gardner, and Sandra Bland to me are the three that was all right, this is
in our lifetime, probably.
Yeah, that was the craziest.
It was that summer too. I don't know if you remember that summer, where it was just video after video after video. It was a week where it was hot. It was hot. I didn't want to go outside at all.
They all died the same year?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what you were saying.
But there was a summer, I think it was summer 15, either not summer 15 or summer 16, where police was just going. They was trying to conspiracy. I thought they was trying to start a race war right then and there when that was all going down because there was no way.
Start?
Yeah, kick it off,
Kick it off.
All right.
Come on, son. We've been in a race.
All right. Nah, you right.
Add fuel to the fire.
You right.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
But those three specifically, like you said, I think hit a lot of us the hardest, like people in their.
You know what really sucks the most out of all of this? Hearing you say that, I'm not even like making fun of you for like, you know, you say start kick it off. It sucks because as you grow up, yes, I had parents that made me aware of you know, previous instances and their you know, upbringing and how things happen for maybe my grandparents. I'm aware of a lot of the social injustices that went on then, racial issues that have went on as well. But growing up as a kid, a lot of times you don't really see it. You don't want to see it. Most of the kids your age are all cool. You're hanging out, and you don't really, as a kid, you don't really see it. You know what I'm saying? You don't really see these issues. And as I get older, I watch my siblings when they were younger. They didn't even, if you mentioned the difference in someone's color, they were a little offended. Like, oh, you know, if I said, oh, that's a white kid, oh, why you have to say, you know, like you hear this, they don't want to see it. Unfortunately, we grow up and we get to an age where we have to now be aware of it. And that's the fucked up part, because really, if you left it up to kids are the kid. If you pay attention to kids, they know more than us as far as how to live as one. Obviously, it's more complicated than that. But you tell a white person telling the kids not to hang out with the black kids after they've already been hanging out with them, and they looking all conflicted like, oh, why can't I hang out with them? Right? They don't know, why should they? You know what I'm saying? It's so pure, and it just changes, and you lose sight of that, and everyone forgets how it is to be a kid. So, in our lifetime, yes, when you want to say they were trying to kick off a race war. I can see how we think like that as young people, because we just now getting into it. Whereas, you have older people that have been doing it, have been dealing with this shit for like years. And yes, it affects us as kids. It affects us as kids, but most of the time, it's not the shit you want to be thinking about as a kid. So, or if you're blessed or privileged enough not to have to worry about shit like this, or not to have to worry about worse off shit. Like if you were blessed enough to actually have a normal or close to normal childhood, not the shit you want to be thinking about. But I don't know.
That's a crazy part, because a normal childhood is not the same for a black kid. Like, unless you just want to. Well, I guess that depends on the kind of parent you want to be. Do you want to let them know what's going on in the world, or do you want to make them ignorant until they figure it out themselves?
Normal childhood compared to white kids, you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like black kids always got to worry about. I mean, like, I know a lot of people sat their kids down and was like, "Listen, if you ever get pulled over, this."
And that's what I'm saying. You hear that as a kid, and like, you're like, why? Like, why do I have? You know, you don't want to listen to that. You actually, it makes you uncomfortable to have to hear it, because you don't really know why they're telling you this, because you haven't maybe necessarily been through it. So it's like, why do I have to think like this? Like, you're being corrupted before you even get to it. And then you find out, oh, like, they were teaching me. But in teaching you, they're passing down also maybe some ideals that they might have that you may not have ever conceived, had you found it out for yourself. So as a kid, until you actually understand, you won't understand. Until you go through it, you won't understand what's being told to you, right? So until you go through it, it'll just be like, why are they telling me this? Or why do I have to think like this? Like, I don't, maybe you might rebel, but it's like all those things where you're being told, you're being molded into something. And for us, it's survival. For them, it's hate, right? And they got to choose. They have to choose morally whether they want to listen to their parents. We can't really choose whether or not we're going to listen to our parents, because
that's a fact.
Yeah. So,
that's a fact.
It's gonna affect us either way.
And to that point, I'm sorry, my fault.
No, go.
And to that point, like, and to answer your question too, when I realized that, like shit is really like crazy at being a black man, was Sean Bell. And when Sean Bell happened, that was 2006. I remember like it was yesterday. And at 2006, I was 9.
Yeah, I was about to say that was pretty early.
So I was watching the news. I was watching the coverage of it, and it was like, oh, shot 41 times. And I was like, what? I was like, they shoot him with like an automatic? It was like, nah. It was like officers who unloaded, reloaded, and kept shooting.
On the
And
day
when
of
I
his
heard
wedding?
that, yeah, the night before day of his wedding.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, what? I was like, how? If he and did he have a gun? Like, so these are questions I'm asking myself. I'm not asking anybody. I'm like, all right, so did he have a gun or something? Like, why the fuck they shoot so many times? And then he found out he didn't have a gun. So I'm like, oh no, they definitely about to be get out, like they're about to get them out of here. And then you find out no, they didn't get him out of here. And there was no trial and there was no
They let you down.
no charges, no nothing. So then I was like,
Did your mother
and
introduce that case to you, or because I can't imagine
nah,
9-year-old flipping through the news.
it was like,
What happened
and I,
before that case, for you to
mm,
be so aware of the injustices that went on? As far obviously everyone knows you get shot 41 times, something goes on. But for you to be aware and have knowledge about whether there's going to be a trial or not, what was introduced to you for you to have those thoughts
like just
at 9 years old?
I would attribute it to like school, and just how they taught us, like, if you do something bad, you go to jail. And like my I guess I would say my father, and my mom, kind of, they didn't expose me to too much of the intricacies that I know now. But it was almost like planting seeds that will one day, like, I would, like you said, like, you either go through it or you have to see it for yourself to really truly understand it. And when the Sean Bell case, I don't know what it was in me, but from that day on, like, that solidified my relationship with the police. Not to say that it swayed me to look at a police officer and start wilding out, or if I ever had encounters with the police, that I would act a certain way because I know a certain outcome could come. Nah. But as far as my relationship with police, that was like my clear distinction. Like, this is the the temperament of the whole thing. Like, there's no if, ands, or buts, because if they could do that and get away with it and it be on the news and all of that,
Yeah, he
nah.
was pretty young too. He was like in his early 20s, if I'm remembering.
I don't know. It's my fault.
No. I was gonna actually. Do you have a specific case?
Not me. My parents were, and my grandfather, when he was here, he kind of always gave me pep talks and made me make sure I was aware of just things that you need to be aware of as a black man while I was a kid. I wasn't always a fan, and I didn't do it very often. My dad used to have me read books on a lot of people within our community that were figures. What happened? What happened? What's up?
Ooh, I already know. I can read between lines. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, and
Nah, I see what Pops is doing. I see what Pops is doing.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he would have me do that and then write a report on the book I read to make sure that I was getting knowledge from it. Like certain things he tried to get me to do. So a lot of it, once again, but at the same time, he was very sheltering as a father, like while making me aware, also trying to preserve my childhood. So I wasn't really aware much of a lot of stuff that was going on. I would hear about it, but I wouldn't think much of it because me as a kid, I was one of those things where maybe, it doesn't have to be like that. Or maybe I don't have to think like this because maybe I won't, it won't have to affect everyone the way it affects. Maybe it'll change. That's what every kid kind of wants. Like you hang out around certain people and you see like, you have white friends, are that seem like they really like you and you're really cool with them, and to think that you might not be able to be cool with them. Like no one wants to, as a kid, think like that because those are your friends. As you get older, you start to understand. And then just understanding that everybody is human. I learned in school, just dealing with teachers. And that's how I found out that anyone with a job is just a person. Like teachers are corrupt too. Like it's everywhere. Anyone with power over you is going to be corrupt somewhere, somehow. And that's why I don't like to always call people who don't have the power to change or don't want to. A lot of times you see teachers that know other teachers are bad, and they might want to help. And what do you do? Like you ever see Freedom Writers?
Mm-hmm.
Like that teacher, I guess you could call her a good teacher. She tried to do, but she also only attempted to help her own kids. So does that make her a bad teacher for not trying to change the way the school went? Like, I don't know. And that's a feel-good story. Of course, shit was glorified that she probably didn't do. But there's so many things throughout life where it's like I can't judge everyone if I don't know for sure. Because growing up, everywhere we've been, everybody that's been put in power has always been someone who tried to corrupt or something of the sort. And other colleagues of the same power might notice it. They might speak to that person. They might say, hey, yo, this is not, but they might not have the power to go up to higher up and change it, especially if you got tenure. That's when I started to realize this shit. So you got the cops, you got the teachers, anywhere. You go to work, your boss is a regular ass person, but he might treat you like shit because he's getting paid more bread than you and you need your job. And it's like the most important thing in the world, right? So I don't know how to.
That impacted you the most?
Huh?
Did you have a case that impacted you the most?
That impacted me the most?
Well,
in my lifetime.
Already aware, like you kind of had those seeds planted in you since you were a kid. So I would assume that you weren't that shocked by the system.
No, you still shocked by it. I want to say I didn't live through it. Of course, I'm about to say a name that, of course, but just being told about it and then going on my own. The Emmett Till case. That case is the case that shit made me want to cry. Like just looking at the pictures. Yeah. I was so intrigued by that case, and after
especially I was told now knowing that woman. Sorry, you froze. I thought you were done. But especially now knowing that she literally admitted to lying about it.
I was told about the case, and there was like I believe like a little short or a film that was based off of it. And I just went for like a week or two just looking at the pictures and reading the story. Like that shit was a lot. So the Trayvon Martin is the first case that really like opened my eyes to shit I was living through now. And watching that case and being disappointed when they just let him walk, George Zimmerman. But the first case I ever really that ever really moved me into an emotional state was Emmett Till. So
who introduced you to Emmett Till?
Really my father.
Okay. So, yeah, because I was about to say we didn't learn about that in schools, especially this white ass school I went to.
My father was the one, like, he always made sure that I knew that you cannot get all your information from school. You have to go home and do it yourself. So
shout out to your dad.
Facts.
That's crazy. It's crazy too that it's like no matter how much you try to prepare your kid for it, you can't. Like you were saying, it's one of those things you just gotta experience because it's definitely gonna come across your life some way, one way or another, whether it's you or someone you know, or just watching the news or her being harassed by the police. I also want to ask you guys, all right, so there's some talk about solutions or things that we can try to do to make things better in terms of policing. So the three that I've been hearing about the most is A, abolishing the police, B, defunding the police, or C, ain't nothing wrong with the police. They're doing a good job. So I want to hear what you guys think do you think is the best way to keep the peace around here?
Go ahead, bro. I just finished speaking for a little bit, so.
All right. Well, in the words of David Banner, there's two things that white people fear. That's the loss of life and the loss of finance. So I'm all for point number 2 in defunding the police, even though I know that that is going to be anything that's proposed, anything that's put into plan, it's always going to be very little, little.
Before you go on, I also wanted to add reform. So
Yeah, I
it's
was about to
abolish,
say that was gonna be
defund.
me.
I
I was
forgot.
gonna.
Abolish, defund. Ain't nothing wrong with them, or reform. Those are your four options.
I feel like, um, I feel like police in this country, they already get like too much funding, depending on where it is. So it's like if it's a major city, and obviously the funds for a major city policing
The budget is normally the biggest, and by a landslide.
right. And on top of that budget being like one of the biggest budgets, um, and I just found out, I was told that the NYC budget, police budget, is $5 billion. I was like, what the? I was like, what? Like
More the
that's
schools.
billions. Like, woo, more to schools.
They're
And
also
one of
the
the things
largest
that
department in the country. But continue. Just want to
true,
put that thumbs
yeah, the
up.
largest, the police, yeah. Um, but I feel like defunding the police in a sense of demilitarizing the police, which will never happen because in major cities, especially in major cities, there because of uh, the post 9/11, they militarized the police because of possible quote unquote terrorist threats and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they are using those same funds and policies to act on act those out on the normal population, like the civilian population. So I say defund the police, hit them with their overtime hours. Like it'll fix people who think that they can maybe do something. For those who have people in higher positions that can get them out of situations, that's a whole nother conversation, and that's very specific. But ultimately, the a start, not the ultimate thing to do, but a start should be to defund the police and see how it makes them act, how it shakes that system going on over there.
I like
Well,
that you specified that's the start and not the end game.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. But Brandon, what do you got that smirk on your face like you
no,
got some?
yeah, I was just laughing at his end statement. See how
Okay.
they act, and I have a feeling that we gonna find out soon. But, um,
Yeah.
uh, I don't believe that you can separate defund and reform. I think you have to lump them together, in my opinion. I believe defund and reform. And yes, like Will said, you start somewhere, but it it has to. You have to literally tear it apart, just like the Constitution in which this country is was formed by. It's not up to date. It's got to be modernized, and you got to put a lot of stuff in their policies that instrict harsh and severe punishment for taking the life or abusing the power, especially in situations where it can be de-escalated or handled without said force. I get militarizing big city police enforcement because of possible terrorist threats that we seem to not understand happen to us every day or every year, every month in this country before the lockdown shut down, when you have white kids running into their schools and shooting them up and running into churches, but those aren't terrorists. Um, that's me being sarcastic. LOL. But yes, we have to be able to we have to be able to hold them accountable, which would be the reform and defund, because there's no reason why they should be making up that much of the budget. and you have issues within inner city areas that can be fixed with that money. You have schools that can be fixed with that money. You got areas where people wouldn't have to be so close and on top of each other, making things antsy and raising the potential for crime to arise because people are uncomfortable. That could all be fixed with whatever budget that they decide to defund, which it won't be. It'll take it from them and put it somewhere else, or they'll take it from them and slide it back to them under the table. So who knows what will happen, because unfortunately, unless you change it from the top, you can't really defund the police. So, but yeah.
When I said reform, I guess I meant it more in a way of like, in terms of like Will was saying before, like vetting police, having new training programs and things like that. But I understand why you said you can't separate the two.
I know. Yeah. You should do all that as well, but that for me comes within if you add in a new policy for the disciplinary action, I'm assuming that you would also add in training policies and requirements, licenses, whatever the case may be. It shouldn't be. Huh?
They could argue in order to do that, we can't be defunded. We need these funds to set these programs into place.
Yes, that they could argue that, I guess, but not really. They can make the argument. Well, I just feel like I had something in my head and completely vanished. So, well, go ahead, bro. I don't know.
This is funny, like because all right, so I battle a lot with being very radical in my thinking and my
that's
speaking.
Me. You know I'm radical.
OD. So I'm gonna just this is disclaimer.
I just want you to be as real as possible. Get rid of the good guys and talk from the heart, bro.
So it's funny. It's funny because at the end of the day, right? In anything, we could talk about anything. We could talk about police. We could talk about Hollywood. We could talk about the fashion industry. But when it comes to like anything involving this country, any and everything was built on the fundamentals of racism, oppression, having somebody work for you to build your wealth, right? To build your empire, whatever the case may be. And sometimes in forums where it's like, well, what are solutions? Sometimes I just want to be like, look, the only solution is the one that everybody knows, but they won't say, because that means giving up comforts, right? And the thing about giving up comforts,
what does everybody know? Giving up comforts, is that it?
No. Everybody knows that the only way to make real change is to burn everything to the ground and start. Like no, like seriously.
I didn't see it coming, but I feel what you're saying.
On a very basic, fundamental level, if you have blocks, right, as a little kid, if you have blocks, the big ones, the builder blocks, and you stacking them shits up, and you don't like it, you ever seen a kid smack blocks down and like start over?
That's not even feasibly possible to do. That would be suicide to do that in the real world. You know how many that would be suicide to try to tear it down.
I know.
Over. And you know how many countries hate us? They see that shit happen and they want to come in and destroy us.
No. And that's why I keep it reserved. I keep it tucked. You feel me? Only for certain conversations, because I know. And now I'm mature enough to understand the ramifications of that type of thinking. But realistically, especially with this country, because this country was founded on what it was founded on, and because it's ran on a negative thing, because people think it's positivity, rainbows and roses. Nah, at the reality of the fact is that it's ran on something that's very nasty, on something that's inhumane, uncivilized, and you try to mask it by thinking that you're being humane and civilized.
That what true, you said, it is, and it's so ironic that people, the way a lot of racist white people and some others who are on the fence think about our ancestors, and it's like your ancestors are literally, there's no comparison between how inhumane and brutal they are. You want to talk about like disgusting shit, like that is, there is no beating that, and they've done it all over the world, and I don't understand how. And the only way I can describe them as, once again, you want to talk radical and not giving a fuck about your thoughts, they are a virus or a plague that attaches to others because they cannot live without others. Like you said, we build this shit up. They need that. They can't do it themselves. They have never done it themselves. There's always been some type of manipulation that they've done, some killing. They killed off the Indians by giving them a virus. That's why I need so many fucking
The natives.
I'm sorry, the native indigenous people. My fault. But that's why we need the freaking the vaccines, because of them. Like everything they fuck up everything. And I'll go ahead once again. But and once again, for any white people that are watching that aren't racist, and any white people that aren't racist that watching, it's not about you. If you get upset, I'm talking about you.
I really didn't want to go that.
You I knew you wasn't going to. That's why I brought it there.
But nah, just like realistically, and this is something that I've talked about recently. When it comes to issues of race, anything racism, whatever, white people can't speak. And I say that because, one, white people have the luxury of not even knowing how their ancestors moved. You feel me? Like that's real deep. Like that's not to be said lightly. That's not to be put lightly. They have the luxury of not knowing how their ancestors moved in the world, right? So when it's a person like us, it's like, yo, back in such and such and such, this happened. And the crazy thing about it is, because it's continuous, we are constantly digging up, you can call it artifacts at this point, of white ancestors, white people's ancestors. Like, it shit sounds like movies. It sounds like gory horror films. The shit that they do, the shit that's been done in history. Yes. And the reason why I say white people can't talk is because, one, they even if they don't have the not like the dates, the like names, all that, they know that something is wrong. That's one. Two, they don't even acknowledge their own history, and that's nasty. That's nasty for any group of people.
They're ashamed of it,
like running from it.
Yeah,
you know, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, even if you don't burn the shit down, because I understand why you said that, the very least you could do is hold yourself accountable and move forward from there. Very fucking least you could do.
No, the first thing I got to go.
I'm glad you said that. Go ahead. What's the first thing I got to go?
The way we vote. One, we got to shift the attention from the presidential to our local to our local areas. And two, that two system shit, that two party shit, it really has to go. I'm getting tired of people's here. I get tired of hearing people say, "You think like a Republican, you think like a Democrat." What? Everybody thinks. Everybody is, at one point in their life, is either going to think in a conservative way or not. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way you could just, or a liberal way. There's no way you could just pick one for the rest of your life. And there's so many third parties and other parties alike that we will never actually get the attention that they need, because everyone is always brainwashed by this two-party system, and that's why we'll never get anywhere. If you really want to change, you start from the top or the bottom, but make sure you vote in your local areas first, because they actually affect you more than the president does, and then work your way up, right? That's the only way you can make immediate change, is by doing that, making sure you know who was in your office, in your local area, your local town, your local borough, or when I know they're divided into different sections within the city, but whatever it is, whoever you you have to be knowledgeable about that. That's part of burning it down. Get them old white people out of there. Get in some other people, and we actually can make that change too. We
But you
just
can
don't.
vote for people like not in the party that you're assigned to.
If you I think if you vote independent, you can. I don't think that I don't think you can if you're labeled in a
Democrat or
party.
Republican.
Yeah, if you're labeled to a
Oh,
party,
okay.
you have to vote, or it doesn't count. I don't think. Or it might. I don't know how that works, but I do know that we should be more focused on local elections.
I agree.
Okay,
Before-
so I
well,
want to. Nah,
finish
you good,
what
but
you're
I
saying.
do want to finish on my point because it sounds crazy, but
You
it's
sound crazy.
true.
No, I'm saying. Stop.
So one, I'm gonna just recap. One, to any extent, white people know what's going on. They know something is wrong. They know they know that there's been wrong done. Two, they have the luxury of not acknowledging their history, what their ancestors have done, their actions, how they came into power, how things are today. And three, well, this goes from 2 to 3, but the fact that like the practices were so inhumane and uncivilized, and that you try to cope that by claiming that you are humane and civilized leads me to my third point. And I say, and I call it the white intellect, right? So what I mean by white intellect is when you're like faced with problems like a police shooting or whatever the case may be, and instead of listening to the people, to a person who you know can be directly affected by it, you automatically turn to your think piece or your you say shit just to sound good. Like you put all these nice words together and all just to sound good. And I feel like when 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 a, when a white person like acts naive and like, oh, I don't know what to do, or like teach me, or like where's the information, like, but on the other hand, when it's time to sit down and have the debate or the discussion, it's always, well, I feel that
Yeah, they want to
saying
argue.
some nice shit. Exactly, right? So I call it, the reason why I call it the white intellect is because they will literally, by trying to inject some type of critical thinking into this, like a situation like that's based around race, it then in itself it shows the white privilege first and foremost, and two, it demeans a personal experience, right? It demeans the opportunity for a personal experience to be brought into a discussion, right? So you can be able to feel, not for, I'm not saying this for you to show me statistics and stats and all this. I'm not saying it. I'm saying it because I'm a person that can be directly affected by it, and I'm sharing my story. I'm sharing my experience, so you can understand me, so you can feel me. And when the white intellect kicks in, they're not here for understanding and feeling. They're like, oh, well, in 2012, da, 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 da. No, bro. So if, and I'm gonna close with this: if you are not willing to do the work yourself, if you're not willing to essentially study your own history in this country, then this is, you can intertrade it, but more specifically with race. When you're talking about race, I need you to be quiet. I need you to take a seat.
Facts.
I need you to not say
Just
anything,
listen.
especially and if you're going in with the intentions where, oh, I'm not trying to gain an understanding, cool.
That's
I will know. I will know. Me personally, I will know when a person is not trying to gain an understanding. I will know it, and a lot of us would as well. But at the end of the day, Man, man, oh man,
Like me on it. Yeah, I feel you because I'd rather you not say anything.
anything.
I'd rather you literally act like you're ignorant to it all. Because to me, acting like you're ignorant to all just means you don't care. And that's fine. Like, because honestly, I think a lot of us already assume you don't care because it doesn't directly affect you. But that's my biggest pet peeve in the world. Like, when people who something is never going to affect you have the nerve to comment on it and tell you you're wrong on your experience, like the way that white people tell black people like there's no such thing as racism or you're blowing it out of proportion, or the way that men feel like they could tell women what to do with their bodies in terms of abortions and those laws and policies and defunding Planned Parenthood, or the way that boys tell girls they're being dramatic when they have their periods because you're never gonna have your periods, so how you gonna tell me what I'm being. Like, those kind of people piss me off the most. But at the same time, it's just like you gotta assume that people don't care because they choose to don't care, because there's all this kind of information and facts out in the world. We live in the age of information and you're accessible to the information.
Yeah,
So you
I
can't.
I agree. It's two part agree to your comment just now. I agree. The only time any man should really have a say on what you do with your body and safely pregnant is if the dude is the father, and he should have at least a little say. Second, it's funny how a lot of the white people who make these laws were crying and talking about how they felt like they were being told that they couldn't get haircuts, and they were crying about that not being able to get a haircut and being told, and they were comparing it. Sorry, it's a lot of stuff in the air. Comparing it to like I heard a lot of phrases that women used when they felt like they were being oppressed, what they could do with their bodies or not, and they were talking about haircuts. I found that so ironic and so funny that what you can do with your body only matters. Yeah, that's so important. The haircut's so important, but a clump of cells is not is something that you can't decide. It's big, but um, I had a point. I just thought that was funny because um,
It makes no sense, literally. Like, I can't stand people like that. Off rip, I stopped listening to you because I know you're choosing not to care.
um, I'm not. I gotta say, I'm holding on to a little bit of hope, but because I do know that there are some intended, good faith white people out there. So I do hold faith that more of them will come to the forefront, or maybe not, maybe they won't. But it's hard to keep that faith when you have so many outspoken racists that overshadow or outshine them. Um, like I said, reason why I don't go as far as to say everyone's bad within a certain whatever, because sometimes what can you do? So I'm not going to say every white person is bad because they know racist white people. If they try to check them, or if they don't say anything at all, maybe they feel like they can't. I don't know, but I do know that they're out there. But I do find it hard sometimes to like not attack all of them. So I understand why people do, because you hear it and you get tired of it. It's tough, and it's something that, like I said, like Will was saying, they make comments on things they shouldn't make comments on and act oblivious to it when maybe they're called out, or maybe they're caught off guard and something said to them, and now they don't know what they're talking about, or now they don't know what could possibly be wrong. Like, there's so many things they complain about.
You also don't want to learn. You want to argue.
Yeah, exactly. So
Exactly.
I don't even know what the answer is. Like I said, I fear that it won't be answered in my lifetime or the next, and I only fear that for if I raise children in the world, which I do plan on doing. And I think about that sometimes, like how will I leave the world, and what will I leave behind, and what world will they be living in? Sometimes I think about that. I feel like I think about my future a lot, which I'm told by older people not to do. But
Facts.
I,
That's a setup.
I plan a lot, or I have like goals that I want to reach, and I worry about it a lot. So that's something that crosses my mind. What kind of world will this world be in 20 years? What kind of world if my kids grow up? how would they live? Should I be blessed enough to actually have kids? So
That's a heavy topic.
yeah,
And definitely think something we should revisit. But
thanks.
I know I'm feeling stressed as always. This last 3 weeks have been hard on Black people, but I want to leave this. June 19th is coming up. I urge every Black person to celebrate it. Juneteenth, that's the new holiday for us. I don't care what nobody says. 2, still waiting on Breonna Taylor's murderers to be arrested, at least arrested.
I got a quick question for you. Have you noticed a change or a shift in the attention that or that the Black Lives Matter movement is getting this past week or past few days? It seems like it's dying down. I don't know if and I feel like if that's the case, like that, it's a bad thing. Which we'll talk about it next time we get on. But the fact that after these officers get convicted or whatever the case may be, like if this dies down, then I feel like it was all for nothing, because I feel like the cops was just a piece of it. Like there's so much more that we should be fighting for than a couple cops going to jail.
It's a small speck.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. We brought attention to this stuff, and they're changing it, but the system is still in place. And nothing is going to change long term. If we stop now, it's just going to keep happening. And I fear that we're going to stop very soon, and that's not good. But we could talk about that.
Absentee ballot. Oh, sorry, Brandy.
Yeah.
Yo, I keep freezing. I need to mention it.
I was saying, I remember my third thing was June 23rd is when New Yorkers vote, and the 3 of us are from New York. I was told that you have to vote through an absentee ballot, and those ballots have to be mailed by June 16th. So if y'all didn't do that, I recommend you go do that because it's important. I honestly don't know if it's important, but I feel like it's a small speck in the grand scheme of things. But how are you for change?
As far
you
as
gotta vote.
As far as what?
Well, for me, the small goal in my head is just to get Trump out of office.
I got a question for you.
For now, but that is a temporary goal, huh?
I got a question for you.
Oh my god. Good question.
How you feel about, like, you got the Mitt Romneys, you got all these people, all these white people that are like outwardly expressing that they want him out of office, and there's like a conspiracy in my head that's like, what if he's doing something that'll affect them, and that's the reason why people don't want, like, because you heard about what's her name, Hillary Clinton. She's pretty much has a conviction date or trial. She has a trial now. She lost her case with the emails about the child
trafficking and
sex trafficking and rape and molestation,
all that.
Isn't he doing the same thing?
Who?
Trump.
I don't know.
He was accused of it.
There's a conspiracy going around that he's pretty much trying to out all these people that have like a lot of dirt. Like he has a lot of dirt too. So I'm not saying, like, once again, I don't give a fuck about Trump, but apparently he's got this little mission of his that he's constantly talking about subliminally in all of his press conferences, and he's talking about all these people that he's trying to get prosecute and get in jail for doing a lot of people supposed to be involved in sex trafficking shit. And
I think he's all bark and no bite. If he does do that, time we'll see. I don't believe him. I think he's a raging racist.
I don't know, but I will say
this is a whole, why did you bring this up right now, bro? This is a whole conversation. This is a whole episode, bro.
You did it on purpose. He was
man.
Probably had that in that chamber the whole time. Like he was waiting for it. Nah, yeah, I don't believe that. I still want him out of here. He could go as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's a thought. It's a thought.
It is a thought. You guys are a conspiracy theorist, so I'm sure it's crossed both of y'all minds a couple of times.
I will say, man, there's a lot of people I'm hearing. Apparently, there's a picture of Barack Obama on the beach with an ankle bracelet on. Apparently, he's supposed to be on Apparently, he's supposed to be on house arrest or some type of watch because of his administration and not sex trafficking. Not that he has anything to do with it, but because his administration has something to do with it, they think he has something to do. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things going on right now, and it's wild. And no one's talking about Trump. I don't understand why. Like, but
Yo, why did you bring this up right now, bro?
we're talking about this next time.
We're gonna talk about next month now, because now it's
Yo,
thing. Well, got a whole bunch of
nah.
next week. You better get your
Of
point.
course. Nah. All right. So I'm gonna just say that's conspiracy theory talk, and we definitely need to save that for that deserves its own episode. It'll be fun. I really wanted to end it on like parting some words of wisdom.
Facts. We can do
for
that.
people.
Vote
And
celebrate.
so yeah. First and foremost, Juneteenth is coming up, and I urge, especially Black people, in celebrating your Blackness.
I think Sarah just did
We gotta say it again. Say it till they hear it.
that.
In celebrating your Blackness, I also want you to do research on anything Black, anything Black, like, and don't do it because you have to do it because it's Juneteenth. Do it because, like, this is the opportunity for you to understand who you truly are, what you truly come from. And I heard that they was trying to make that a national holiday. I mean, a paid vacation holiday.
Nike's doing that.
Nah, yeah, I saw some.
Thank you.
Do it. I don't know if the whole country gonna do it. I doubt it, but
I will also want to say this, and this is in the words of Killer Mike, on his latest album.
Keep going.
On his latest album, he I'm paraphrasing. He said something to the extent of they normalized certain shit, and then they stole your empathy from you. And you don't have to be Black, you don't have to be white, you don't have to be any other, you don't have to be a race, a age, a sex, a gender, whatever the case may be, to understand that certain things are purposeful, certain things are tactical, and one of the most horrific things is stripping somebody of their empathy and making them apathetic, because at that point ain't no saving that, ain't no coming back from that, really and truly. So I say that in the case that I made, my last case that I made about white people, like, a lot of them are apathetic. A lot of them have lost their empathy because of narratives painted about us, false narratives, exacerbated narratives. Sorry, excuse me. And because of that, we found ourselves trying to impart warning, wisdom, and empathy, salut, to people who move without emotion. That's a whole nother episode as well. But I would say, keep your heart, 3 Stacks. Keep your heart. That's from UGK Players Anthem.
Players Anthem.
And for my Black people, this is an uphill battle. The battle's not over, like Brandon said. The Black Lives Matter movement, I feel like shit is dying down because the world is opening back up. But that's a whole nother conversation as well. But yeah, keep your heart, keep a tender heart, be vigilant, have discernment, because there's a lot of trickery. What?
Keep it 2 Virgils. I don't know that joke.
Nah, chill. Nah, Virgil need to have us chill. He's sitting down right now. Damn, I lost my last thought. Yeah, be vigilant. Also know that the smarter that we become, the more that we out there tricks, the more trickery they're gonna put out in the world. You can take that for however you want to take it, but that's the real. Don't let nobody try to dissuade you from that. The smarter we get, the more tricks that they're going to be putting out in the world. So you have to have discernment. I'm gonna leave it on that.
Brandon.
I don't know, man. It's like being aware that you live And in the cycle, it's a brainwash. Everything is on repeat. And you got to be aware to break out of it. There's no wise words to tell anyone that's hurt at all. So everyone's just got to be mindful enough to be able to get through it. I appreciate everything Will said, and everything that you said. And the whole point is to take that. There's a lot of pepper in the air, guys. I'm sorry, I can't breathe.
Y'all cooking? Y'all cooking over it?
Y'all
rolling that? Y'all rolling that? Nah,
The next time I immediately thought of like the pepper bombs or whatever they were throwing at protesters.
What happened?
I don't know, man.
I said I immediately thought of the pepper bombs or whatever they were throwing at protesters. He can't even breathe, and he at the comfort of his house. Imagine those protesters.
Shaking my head. And this is illegal.
Exactly, and it's illegal. But anyway.
But yeah, I don't. My soliloquy is kind of messed up. I can't breathe. But once again, Will said it all. Ain't no reason to kind of go on a rant. But once again, I always say it. Stay educated and mindful and aware. Being aware is the most important thing. Even if you don't care, be aware, because you have no choice. You can't hide from it, and a lot of us do try to hide from it. So it'll catch up to you eventually, and just understand at that point that you have a choice to make. And for the people who are fighting, understand what you're fighting for.
Damn, that's how you feel.
Thanks
for watching.
Sorry, I can't cough.
For Brandon to start crying.
Well, all right, so yet again, it's been another episode of That's How You Feel. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, and most importantly, have the conversation with somebody that you trust, because talking about it is better than not doing anything about it.
Yo, this video wasn't recording the whole time.
See it.
Yeah, you capping.
All right.
Peace, y'all.
Yeah.